Hello, good day. We begin this fourth Sunday in Ordinary Time, starting off with the reading from Zephaniah chapter 2, verse 3, and then skipping to chapter 3, verses 12 and 13. This reading makes it clear that to be God's people, we must be lowly and humble. God is the great one, and we would be nothing except what he gives us. After the people of Israel had been taken captive and put into slavery by the Babylonians, apparently many fell away from the faith of their fathers. When it came time for them to return to their homeland, only a remnant came back of those who had left. However, Zephaniah writes that their captivity made them humble and lowly, ready to treat their God as Lord and Master of their lives, ready to faithfully observe his law. God promises to bring peace and prosperity to his loyal remnant. Then going on to the gospel reading, the third reading, Matthew chapter 5, verse 1 to 12a. Matthew likes to bring out that Jesus is establishing a new people, different from the Old Testament people. The Beatitudes are one way of expressing that difference. The New Testament people are not so much observers of laws, emphasizing the externals, but rather a people who grow spiritually, mature in holiness within themselves in a way that shows itself externally. Going from beatitude to beatitude and giving my own interpretation, to my knowledge, there is no official church interpretation of the Beatitudes, but nonetheless, I bring what I glean, the meaning I glean from each of these Beatitudes. Number 1, poor in spirit, means not self-centered, but God-centered. The second Beatitude, they mourn with those who are hurting. They're compassionate, sorrowing with those who are in sorrow. To meet the third Beatitude, they do not think of themselves as more than they really are. And then the fourth Beatitude, hunger and thirst for righteousness, enthusiastically and energetically live for the accomplishment of God's will. Number 5, merciful, forgive as God forgives. Number 6, clean of heart. This is very different. My interpretation is very different. Not the sexual purity that many people would say this means, but rather a different kind of purity. Pure love for God that is the only rationale and motivation for everything in life. It is the love from which every other love flows, the love of God. Number 7, peacemakers. All our endeavors and thoughts come from being members of God's family and joining in God's work, making peace on earth by helping the earth to think as heaven thinks. Number 8, persecuted for righteousness. We are attacked for insisting that we must be obedient to God's will. And number 9, persecuted for being loyal to Jesus. I can do no more than quote the last line. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward will be great in heaven. Moving on to the second reading, 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verses 26 to 31. God chose the foolish of the world to shame the wise. Just here reading there's that line in the epistle. God chose the foolish of the world to shame the wise. God chose the weak of the world to shame the strong. God chose the lowly and despised of the world, those who count for nothing. Those who think that they alone have made themselves into someone who is important without God, who hold themselves in high esteem, and others as beneath them, are now put to shame. Everything that is truly good is at root a gift from God and God alone. The background to this, I believe, is first of all from that section of the Acts of the Apostles that talks about when Paul went to the Areopagus in Athens and tried to convert them, who were great center of great philosophy for 1,000 years at least. The Athenians wrote magnificent books of philosophy. They were highly thought of, whereas the Corinthians were lonely dock workers and the like. Corinth was just a seaport town, and so its work was that of bringing in and shipping out cargo. However, the Corinthians accept Jesus as their Savior, and so had eternal treasure in heaven. At death, it was the Athenians who counted for little or nothing. Philosophy of this world might merit some merit in heaven, but what really merits, the real gift is the treasure of heaven is holiness. God bless you all.